I keep coming back to the new mortgage rules in Canada that take effect December 15th. I keep coming back to them because you know what? They're the biggest news in the mortgage business in the last 8 years. It's really the truth. This is amazing. Amazing that the Government of Canada, which is the sponsor of CMHC, who is the provider of these low down payment mortgages. And by the way, most big countries and countries with, let's call I give you all the acronyms, G7, OECD, all that stuff, but let's just call them the most advanced countries in the world. They almost all have some sort of program to help young people get into the housing market. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's Britain or Australia or Canada, the United States. The United States is the biggest provider of a program to get young people. Heck, if you were in the armed forces in the United States, you might only have to put 1% down to get into a government-sponsored mortgage program. So they all have it. Oh, by the way, the maximum in the United States is $766,000. We've now gone to 1.5 million in Canada because, well, we're that good. Anyway, why do I keep talking about it? Because it is the biggest thing. Today, let's talk about who does it help. When the government announced this last week, they were adamant that they're helping young people afford new homes, that they're designed to help first-time home buyers. By definition, not old people, but it possibly could be, but certainly a first-time home buyer is more likely to be young, under 35, than over 55. That's just the statistical truth. So the government is helping young people to afford their first home. I hope they don't use the word affordability, because the idea that you need a government program that goes to $1.5 million to get you your first home has nothing to do with affordability. And I mean nothing. So let's think about who this is helping really. Okay. Is it helping young people? Well, under the old cap of $1 million, that was about 8 times average income, somewhere between 7.5 and 8 times average income in Canada. Now, the guidelines for years and decades and in all countries was that the proper price of a home was roughly 2.5 to 3.5, maybe in the worst case scenario, 4 times annual average income. This has been true for so long, not true anymore. So what does the $1 million cap, remember, after December 15th, it's a $1.5 million cap. What does the $1 million CMHC cap mean? It means about 8 times average family income in Canada. 8 times, not 3, not 4, not 5, 8 times. Now, the government said, you know what? We don't have enough people in Ontario and British Columbia. We don't have enough people who can make that work. In fact, these kind of CMHC mortgage insured programs where they have low down payment, you pay mortgage insurance to protect the banks. By the way, this insurance is just for the bank's benefit. So if the people don't pay their monthly mortgage payments, the bank can go to the CMHC or Sagen or Canada Guarantee and make a claim and say, hey, they're not paying. We have the insurance on this mortgage. You have to pay us, CMHC, Sagen, Canada Guarantee. You got to pay us. You got to look after us. It's for the banks. So how could it be that if we go to a $1.5 million cap, now we're at 12 or 13 times average annual income in Canada? Think about that for a minute. Like, what government could call that an affordable home? No government. So let's even assume the government could find people who are paying, can afford, they're making like $300,000 a year, and they could afford that program, 10% down on a $1.5 million home. Or maybe they're find people who got parents who can guarantee the mortgage, co-signers who can guarantee the mortgage and get that to work for people. It's still 12 to 13 times average annual income. Why isn't government working on lower priced homes? The famous, we're gonna build 3 million homes, 4 million homes. I've lost track of how many millions they say they're gonna build by 2031, 32. Absolutely ridiculous. There'll be less homes built this year. So I'm serious. Last 3 years, there's probably going to be less homes built, less than half of the needed number of homes. Less than half. The idea of 4 million new homes is absolutely ridiculous, not happening. But ask yourself, who bet, like if this has nothing to do with lower prices, there's no interest in the government in seeing prices of real estate, prices of homes actually come down in Canada. Zero interest. That's proven. It's happened by itself because there's real estate cycles and business cycles that in parts of Ontario and British Columbia, homes are worth 20% less than they were in 2021. At the peak, 2021, 2022, peak pricing, they're down. But how does supporting a $1.5 million starter home serve young people? The truth is it doesn't. Who does it serve? It may serve the construction and development industry, which right now in Ontario and British Columbia, particularly Ontario, is experiencing some hard times. So is that a political move to support a group of people who, well, they vote too? Now, what about the boomers? What about people like me, my age? Old people who have bought a home for like $200 and a quart of strawberries 30 years ago, 35 years ago, and now it's worth $2 million. Greatest thing that ever happened to any generation of people ever. So if we find a way for the government to help support that $1.5 million price point, are we helping those boomers sell at higher prices? Is that the goal of the government? Hey, I'm not going to say for sure, but let me tell you one important statistic. People over the age of 55 vote in elections 40% more consistently than people under 35. People under 35 are the lowest incidence of voting. So if you were going to try to look after somebody and harm somebody else with your policies, I got a feeling that might be the way you'd go. Support the old folks who are voting.